7 o'clock, so we will call to order this first of 2025 village trustee meeting for our monthly meeting. And we will start with acknowledging who is here. In the room are trustees that you can see, and you know us by now. Trustee Patterson will be joining shortly by Zoom. Robert Novak, resident, is also here in Zoom, as in CAT TV. Our clerk, Lori Elwell, is also here on Zoom. In the room also with us is our zoning administrator, Chris Damon, and co-chair of the Planning Commission, pardon me, Kim Hall, and Norm LeBlanc. And Doug. Oh, Doug, thank you.
Just hiding over here.
Okay, so with that, unless anyone has a change to the agenda or an amendment to the agenda, take a minute to look. I see no hands. I see no questions. We will move to approve the minutes of December 10th. And those were sent when they were written and again the other day.
I'll move to accept the minutes as presented.
I will second.
Okay, that's moved and seconded. Laura, you have that information? Yes, Laura is nodding yes. Okay. Any questions from those that did not move? Ray, did you have a question or a comment or?
I don't have a question about the minutes.
Okay. Matthew is not here, so we can call the question. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right.
That is 4 trustees voting, Matthew Patterson not available to make that vote. Doug, you take it away with the warrants.
Okay, we'll do the payroll warrants first. We have the payroll dated from 12/26 to 12/20. Nothing out of the ordinary for December. It was a standard 2-pay period. I will note that the fee for the 12/20 was higher, and that is because that is considered the year-end payroll, so that encompasses sending out the W-2s, the filings, all those types of things. So that is why that fee is higher than normal. Other than that, everything is normal for that. Total payroll warrant is $17,449.77.
So moved.
Second.
Questions? Let me give Ray a minute to
No,
take a look.
I don't have any questions.
No questions? All right.
Payroll.
Well, you never know. Give people a chance. All in favor?
I
Aye.
Again, Lori, that's 4. Matthew not available. Can we use your copies? Or?
Sure, absolutely. Yep, I got 10 copies.
Okay.
I will move on to the bills warrant. I did combine the late December and January, as they were both kind of the same size. So that is on there. The few items that are the larger items I'll go over. The Whacker financing, that is our first annual payment for the new Whacker that was purchased. So that is the annual payment of $13,128. And I believe we did that for a 5-year term on that one.
Is that the sidewalk plow?
Yes.
Yes, okay.
MSK, this is Water Street work. That's what that bill is. And then McCullough Library is a portion of their funding that gets broken out. Those are the larger items on there. New York Fire Equipment, that was for a portion of helmets and gloves for the department for members. Other than that, unless there's any other questions, the total of late December and January is $60,452.43.
I'm sorry, MSK is for highway work or is it?
Water, that was Water Street.
Water Street.
Yep, that was the bill for Water Street.
That's the intersection by the library.
Correct.
That's their design. Yes.
Correct.
Are we going to see a presentation on what that's going to look like soon, or is that way in the future? Or
They still have to, their first design is not like.
okay, so there's still,
I'll just leave it at that.
there's still work to be done and we won't be seeing it.
Yeah, whether we choose to move or not.
Okay,
Okay. So we're paying that.
I don't know where the hang was. But probably, come summertime, we'll actually go out and paint the ground. Okay,
Uh,
with ourselves.
That's a good idea.
yeah,
This is how we want.
Does the design include the slowing table? Raised table?
There's the speed bump, and I will tell you, I gotta, not in favor, I'm definitely not in favor of that. You know what I mean? There is a spot in Brattleboro that's got one, we've never been able to see it, we've never really got a good address of where it is, or, who actually, which town owns it. But what will be there is the mountable curb. We paint it, to bump it out, and slow everybody down, square everybody up, square up the sidewalk. You know,
That design that they did for us, which wasn't really what Norm and I and a couple of other people met with them about, it only included some of that. It was kind of noted in there that it was a potential add-on, but it wasn't incorporated into the design.
Well, why is it? I mean, why is it so, I mean, it's $8,000 here. And it's not close to being even a conceptual.
Say that again?
Airs and emissions clause, so I'm not gonna, I don't wanna have a conversation here.
All right.
About that.
We will not be paying more to get the
Yeah,
corrected
okay.
document.
All right.
Any other questions? Matthew is now with us. I don't know, Matthew, do you need to be brought up to speed? We're just looking at the warrant. Okay. Thumbs up with Matthew. Any other questions from the group or the audience or listening members? Okay, hearing none. Is there a motion? Did you make that motion?
not yet, but I
Okay.
will. I moved, late December, January 2025 warrant for $60,452.43.
And I'll second it. Yes.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, that's unanimous. What was the next thing? Norm.
All right, so just talking about the Water Street, project a little bit. If we do move forward with that, it certainly won't be till summertime. At all. Our first, goal is, the Church Street sidewalk. Again, Dr. Green Mountain Power. We're gonna move all poles, the poles are gonna be moved in. So it's a left of convenience for, the way the sidewalk is, and then sidewalk will be built, and, there'll be a curb on that one side of the street. And one, pretty soon I'll be drafting a letter, I'll send it to certainly board. If you look at it, send it out, all the homeowners with a little teeny kind of sketch,
Mhm,
nothing bigger, we just scale.
mhm.
But we'll get that done, and that's our big springtime project. We have, worked with our tree cutter. We're gonna come in, Park Street, and get rid of those trees so we can extend that ditch line. I believe you talked to the homeowner, right? You're all set there,
We did,
right?
But sorry, down at the other end.
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, yes, we already had that meeting, yes,
Just, we probably should revisit it just before we,
yes.
I mean, the trees can go, there's a lot of them go.
Yeah,
We're gonna, hire them for a day. They'll go up through and get rid of some, once we get those trees done, whatever time we have, we're gonna keep getting rid of. The junk ones up through the street. Deal with a couple problem trees. So other than that, that's pretty good, we're going through the winter. You know,
We did, agree with the homeowner at the end, when Ray and I met with them, that we would give them several days advance before you start the culvert.
In their driveway, yeah, oh, yeah.
Because the owner is a doctor and would need to ensure, access.
Oh, absolutely, and that's, I would like to have a conversation with them, because if they happen to, you know, if they're week that they're going on vacation and not gonna be there, we can move in and do that. You know what I mean, so wherever works, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't wanna, cause there's not another entrance into that piece.
No, no,
No.
didn't want to interrupt, sorry, just one.
No, that's fine, I think, you know, like I said, I think we should revisit with them real quick and just say what's going on. So other than that, that's pretty good. We, filled out paperwork, it's getting picked up for the grant, Wellington Road. So, you know, that's a reimbursement grant, so that'll be, some money sitting in there. Winter's coming, we haven't had any major breakdowns. Everything's been plugging along just fine, you know. A little damage, so other than that, I think we're doing pretty good. We're still waiting on the hydraulic study for Holton Street, or excuse me, not Holton Street, Harlan Road, College Road. And, we will, there's those two guys that are coming tomorrow that are having that for deliverable, so then we can apply for a structures grant like we did at the bottom of the Overlay Road.
Mhm.
So. Yeah, other than that, it's
I had a quick question.
business as usual.
I noticed you put a lot of logs in front of the Welling Fields, I guess, to keep people from driving on it.
That is correct. And nobody had.
Yeah, I know, I checked. That was very smart thinking. Where did those trees come from?
Just in our home here, just stuff, logs that we
Oh,
got,
okay.
trees that we caught, that, you know, we burn sometimes in the year.
All right, so we had those on hand.
Yeah, yeah.
Nice, that's
Yeah.
good.
Yeah, it's kinda, I know it's not pretty, but we have to do something to protect our investment.
Okay.
Some, renegade individual, boy, girl, hold the gun, could go in there and really make a mess.
Yep,
Good dude.
yep, good.
Still gotta work on that, and finish that job up. I know I spoke to Doug, I'm sure he doesn't have it right now, nor does he need it, but, you know, what we have left for our funds, so we can
Very nice work.
pick a fence,
Mhm,
you know, and get with the kid that, Sanitary Kingsville that does their fence work
mhm.
at the park, and he's done it around town, and, you know, and figure out what we want. I mean, if you get to the other side, the soccer field is further away from the lake. I mean, there's a big drop off. You kick a ball, it's going, it's gonna cross the road and all this thing. You know, there's gonna need to be some fencing there, how we go about it. You know, we always talk about just putting, a big ditch in that side of the road where the logs are, so cars can't drive through it, and then, you know, that split rail fence looks beautiful, but it breaks constantly.
Mhm.
Yep,
You know, we can put one in, it'll certainly last 10 years, you know, so I'll be out of the split rail fence. But, you know, I mean, if you've seen the rock up there, there's nothing easy about doing anything. So, but however, you know, the board wants to decide and what we want to do. You know, that's the next, after we finish the bank, that's the next step, you know, so that way, you know, we're really not supposed to be using it in the fall, but probably maybe a little bit. They can do some practices, you know, depending on how it sets up this summer, but it's supposed to sit for over a year. Remember, we didn't have grass out until
Yeah.
November. So, you know, it looks good from a distance, you get up on it, you can see there's blocks, but I think it'll come in. Very pleased with that, you know, I'm pretty proud of that accomplishment up there,
we are too.
but,
We should,
so that's why we put the locks in, keep people out.
Good.
And then I'll jump in, 'cause I know you usually leave, but just for the ARPA, so Mary and I are working
Yeah.
through to find out the last, because there's two potential projects that weren't quite finished, so we're trying to figure out if those are done or not, and then we'll be able to know. The other good piece of the puzzle, like we had said the last time, was there was money approved from the reserve, from Parks Reserve, that we haven't touched yet. So
They're gonna have to post something there.
Yes.
I mean, we're gonna have to have.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we're looking fine, you
And
know, one way or the other.
And we'll get, I don't know, I don't want to speak for anybody else, but I like the idea of the trees that Jeff Gray had suggested that would go up there, and Mark agreed that putting some trees along that bank could be, that slope could be helpful too.
Yeah, I guess this is the first I heard about that. I don't remember that
Oh, you
conversation.
were at that meeting, sorry.
The only thing I don't like a row of trees is because that blocks people from seeing somebody doing mischief.
Okay,
You know, when it's open and everybody can see, can't hide from
well,
anybody.
you could have trees that don't touch and don't create,
Yes.
you know, something, and again, tree experts would know exactly how to place them, but, we would, that's something that we did not have in the original budget, but.
I mean, you know, that's, if it wasn't, if you could seal, like at the other end.
Yeah,
You know, like the fence, the arborvitae's there in the park, I mean, that would be a great, it's, you know, you just let it make, you just trim it every once in a while, and that wouldn't be bad. I think they're kind of expensive to get that distance up, but, you know, anything's gonna be, but we definitely have to do something.
Yeah.
You know, it doesn't need to be soon, but it should be next construction.
The trees were intended to be a shade when he was talking about
and
that.
he was talking about, well, Mark noted that it would be helpful for a little shade and to keep balls from getting out into the road.
Oh, so he wanted an actual row.
I mean, they can't be.
Well, but it doesn't need to be, none of
Right.
those need to be, you know, rows that you cannot see through. But some trees over there is a nice idea. You don't have to have an entire row with trees 10 feet apart from each other. But you could put something tasteful in there that is appropriate, that is in keeping with, the village plan and
It's pretty smart, man.
everything.
I mean, when you
else.
start adding stuff to it, it makes,
Then maybe not the bank,
It
maybe
makes a
there's
lot-
other places. that
makes
it
a lot
goes.
of sense.
Okay,
That would definitely be hard. And that's my opinion, you know,
Okay.
you know,
well, your
Yeah.
opinion counts for a lot, so no decisions would be made unless maybe there's a whole, another field trip over there and people take a look. But does not need to be decided now, but I agree, please.
there needs to be something to stop the ball.
In this.
Falling across.
Yeah.
Because it's going, and then
Yeah.
whether it's, you know, snow mats or something, you know, they wanna, you know, again, we'll go back to the tree thing, right? We made that a little bit bigger, so we put a road around the outside.
Okay,
And so you plant some trees in that, and then they just tie snow fence up during the soccer season and take it down.
there you go.
Maybe that's
That,
doable.
that,
You know?
do it.
A couple wooden posts in between or something, and.
Right.
You know. So,
Any other questions? Does our audience have any questions? Not seeing any hands up. Yes,
While Norm's here, I don't know if he's weighed in on this gift that's been offered. Is that under discussion?
it is not on today's agenda. Norm is aware of it. We have had discussion. The owner of the property, basically is waiting and doing nothing unless the village gives him whatever documents he should be signing. And when I spoke with the attorney, that's not the way it works. The owner of the property needs their own attorney to write up whatever you call it, quitclaim or something like that. So that is not on today's agenda because I just don't have information. But Norm had some good thoughts about, should that ever come to a discussion where a decision is made, we would have a public meeting on that.
I only bring it up because in PLCT's newsletter, there are funds for brownfield.
There are there are indeed, we did know that, we did find that out. There is a lot of brownfield funds available. But at this point, our attorney advised us to not communicate and until the owner has their representation make the contact.
They continue to pay property tax.
Yes, property taxes are paid on that parcel.
I'll hold tight for,
Okay. In the past, they were paid on that property, currently. They are assessed on that property, I should say that. Okay. Thank you, and Kyle, for your 3 AM work on our roads, because we do have some of the best roads, cleanest in the area.
Yeah, you can always tell when you get to Bennington.
Yes. And Matthew is applauding that via the screen here too, so. Anything else?
I always know it's snowy when you go by at 5 AM.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Correct.
Okay. Thanks, Norm.
Doug, you're up again, if there's
Yep.
anything else you want.
yeah, a couple of quick things. There is no real update for year to date. I had given through November, when we did all the tax and budget and everything. Thanks. Got it. So it would really just be 1 month, so there was really nothing to do there. Cash balances I sent out, we're in good shape for, cash on hand at the moment. I have not started to fund any reserves yet. Probably March to April, I'll start to move some money around for reserve funding. Once we kind of see if there's anything, knock on wood, big over the winter that we're not expecting. But other than that, everything is, on par there. Audit work status, I don't have a definitive time yet for when the auditors are going to be here. As Mary knows, but I've begun collecting the information, getting that ready to go. A few more things this week that hopefully then I'll have probably 90% of the list, ready to go for that. And the other news, the copier is here and has been set up. I'll talk to people after if they want, but basically, anybody who's here that needs to use it, the first time you just need to be here during working hours. So during the day, just to contact SimQuest to set up they have to put a drive on your computer, laptop, whatever the case may be. And then you're fully hooked up to the printer. Because it's a web-based, you can't just pick it and print to it, but. Other than that, it's set up, I can show trustees, you guys all have a print to box that's set up there. And then the thought is then, if somebody's here just for a committee meeting, they can just, print to it, but they'll just need to set that up at some point in time.
And I will say it works very easily. And so I would encourage every trustee and committee folks to take advantage of it. It's there if you need it. If you don't, then you don't. But bigger jobs, double-sided jobs, it comes out like a dream. So all you need to do, and you can be in your own living room and send print jobs there, but you have to be on site with your device to hook up to the Wi-Fi, and then you can access your jobs. And every user would, like Doug was saying, you'll have a box, so you will get your documents. No one else is gonna go print your documents, and they stay there until you remove them.
Yeah, that's pretty much it
We're
there.
really good. Thank
Yeah,
you so much.
great.
I know that was a lot of work.
Yeah, but no, it's there, it's up and running, and, there is, like I said, the toll-free number is right on the front of it, and it has a little device number, so they would know exactly who you're calling, what printer you're calling.
Yeah.
And they know that there will be folks calling to set things up, so it's not going to be an issue to get that done.
And you need your computer with you.
Correct, because they will remote in to your computer to set up what's called the driver for that printer. And it's a one-shot deal. Once it's set up, that's it. You don't have to do that part again.
Okay.
It's just that initial setup, and then.
Well, all I have to do is call them and have my computer available, open. and make it-
But
I
you need
can
You have
select
to
it.
be here. You have to
From
be
here,
Yeah,
yes.
that's it.
From,
And then,
from, well, I can use my cell phone here or not?
for,
Calling them,
oh, absolutely,
yes.
yep,
I just
absolutely,
have to be here because I have to do something with.
with whatever device you're gonna wanna print from.
Yeah,
That's it. And then after that, they'll tell you you're good to go. They'll do a test with you over the phone to make sure it works. And then you're good to go.
It took all of 10 minutes.
Yep.
For mine.
Right, that piece of it is quick. I will let folks know, it is a scanner, that piece, we do have to work with, our IT to get that. The scanning is going to the server, but it's not going to the email, so we have to figure that piece out. But it will happen, it's just that, haven't had that time to schedule that piece of the fun yet. So,
okay.
and nobody will have to do anything different, I'm just letting folks know that it is a scanner and it will be able to scan. Yeah. And unless anybody has any other questions for me, I don't have anything else.
I have a question about the audits. Is
Yes,
there a season where all audits are done, or they can do it anytime when they?
so they
have
can do
time?
it anytime. We are going to be what's considered off-season, which will allow them to get us done on an annual basis, because most audits are going to be either around the June time or the December time, depending.
Like,
So we're kind of in the middle, we're gonna be like January, February, because the village and the water department are both gonna be using the same firm. As they're kind of tied together. So
what about the school?
school is different because they fall under the SVSU.
Different,
Gotcha.
different protocols, but it is the same company.
Oh, okay.
Exactly what I was going to say, ironically enough, it is the same firm,
Yeah.
but it's handled differently.
Okay,
Because the school contracts first through the SVSU. And SVSU uses the same firm that the village is now going to be using.
I see,
Uh,
okay.
So yeah, so when we contracted with them, there was discussion about when the audits wanted to take place. So the audits going forward will be done in January, February for the prior year end of 6/30. So when they come, this time they're gonna be doing the 2 years because we missed the one. Now we're going to annual. But going forward, it will always be as of 6/30 the prior year.
Except water will be as of
Water is different,
12:31,
correct.
so.
Right,
that-
water
that
is
way They can do them both at the same time. The
Exactly.
8 month delay for the village is not a big deal.
Right. Because we technically could stay on a 3-year path if we wanted to. So delaying that 8 month doesn't affect anything as far as regulations or when it has to be done. So this way here, they can come send whoever they need to, one shot, do water and village and be done.
Nice, that's good. Sounds well in hand.
Any other questions for Doug? Any other comments or concerns? Not seeing anything coming from the audience. Thank you, Doug. Nothing from the fire department that anyone knows of. Thank you, Ray, for trying to work through the fire department equipment grant that was available, that was just ran out of time for. I know that was work on your part. Don't think it came to naught, at least we learned something. Water department, I don't have any update from them. And if anybody here has questions, I can refer it back, but DRB,
Nothing for January.
nothing for January. Okay. Kim, you are up for planning commission, right? And I will note that the planning commission does meet on Monday, the 13th, January 13th, and then the next meeting is February 19th, I must say.
And we may have a meeting, on that same day with V-Trans
That's right.
on the 13th, because I looked at the doodle
Oh, did you?
and,
Oh,
the only thing that's in
13th.
common was the 13th.
yeah. Speaking of
January?
which, yes, did you receive that doodle poll? Did you respond to that?
I did not.
After this meeting, let's take a quick look so you can, I would
Okay.
like you to make sure we can get you included.
Okay, good.
Okay,
Is that still, here in the village or?
yes, Yes,
elsewhere?
no, should be here.
Okay, good,
Good, we'll take care of that after the meeting.
nice.
Okay. Yeah,
So we've written, the piece for the annual report. And I'm gonna be working off that for my discussion today.
and I apologize, I did not share that. I shared the annex to the report, but I did not share the full report.
Well, in the full report, it, addresses the upcoming schedule for, approval and implementation of the two documents that we've been working on for several years now. And that is the land use and development regulations and the village plan. And we hope, that we get our final edits and, approval from the planning commission, on the meeting on the 13th. And then turn any comments around and turn it over to the trustees.
May I just interject? The draft documents were sent back in December to all trustees. I did know at the time, they're pretty monster documents, but they're important that trustees review and see them. I do have one with me today, a hard copy of each report that I'll leave here and somebody can take. The reports are also on the website. If you go just to the homepage. So please try to see if you can look at that because we need comments by next Monday.
So the process is that the planning commission turns it over to the trustees. The trustees hold a public meeting after they've agreed that it can go forward as the village documents. And then it's sent to the state and to BCRC. BCRC will review it, but they're not in a position to, say that it's inappropriate or anything like that, but they will review it. The state will potentially send it to their lawyers and have it fully reviewed. This is the land use regulations. And maybe the village plan too.
I believe this.
Yeah, they certainly scan the last chapter, which is consistency with the state mandates and goals. So this is an important point in the history of the Planning Commission's work. Be able to turn these documents over to you. They are substantial. The land use regulations are over 200 pages. And there's a new fee schedule. So there's a lot to be digested before essentially it's your job to present it to the public for approval. So you should know what's in it, what questions you may get, and so forth. So that's the overall structure. You should be getting the final documents in the next few weeks. And just as a summary, obviously we've been working on that, but there have been a lot of other things, and you will have seen those in the additional supplement to what the Planning Commission has done over the last year. Several of us have got ICS 200 certification. We've participated in regional emergency planning committee meetings, participated in the statewide emergency planning tabletop exercise of a snow event at the same time as a cyber attack. We have participated in VLCT seminars throughout the year. We did develop conceptual plans for moving the fire department to the garage site, and then worked with VLCT's federal grant specialists to determine exactly what that would entail, what sort of support we could get, and it turned out that it was insufficient, and nevertheless, we did do that study to determine that it was outside the debt capacity of the village. We worked with the fire department, BCRC, and Vermont Emergency Management, and invited the past chair of BCRC, Jim Sullivan, and developed a tabletop emergency planning scenario for a heavy precipitation event, obviously concerned with the dam. And that is poised and ready to go. Should this meeting with V-Trans result in them completing an emergency action plan. And once that action plan is done, we can then hold a tabletop exercise and they can follow their plan and see whether or not it works. We've also contacted over the course of the year the Federal Railway Administration and determined that the Bennington Railway Spur is private track and that state and local governments can legislate concerning the storage of LPG tanker cars stored there. And we've apprised you of your power to legislate. That would need to go through the planning commission because we would then incorporate it into the bylaws and go through the whole public process again. But it's on your agenda if you wish. But we have the legislative power to move forward with restrictions. I've noticed that this year they are not storing LPG gas there. I think it's still limestone slurry, even those cars. But that's not to say they may not do it later in the winter. I'm not really sure. We also,
It says that on the cars, that's what's in it, limestone slurry.
no, but that's what's typically been stored in past years there,
Okay,
but it's not tankers,
not tankers. So
Not the black ones.
not the plastics, right?
Right.
Obviously, we have the meeting coming up for the emergency action plan for the Lake Grand Reservoir Dam. Planning Commission has developed preliminary supplies list for a weather emergency shelter at the school. We've had 2 meetings with the village school to explore establishing the school auditorium and classrooms as a weather emergency shelter. I have submitted for a proposal to an engineering firm in Rutland to do an electrical engineering study so that we know what work needs to be done on the school in advance of buying a generator and buying supplies. And that has been shared with the trustees, I believe. Is that right, Mary?
I don't know that I did.
Well, I thought you mentioned it last time. that
We
you were-
mentioned it, but I
We
don't,
have,
mentioned.
pardon me, I don't know that I shared the actual document.
We
okay,
haven't seen it.
it's, oh, well then, please share it amongst yourselves. I've handed it off to Mary. I think it's $5,000. I'm sure it's a time and materials contract where they'll come in and determine what needs to be done. But over the phone, he had a very good idea already. He said, well, we would not reasonably come in and try to have limited circuits on emergency power. It would be much simpler and much cheaper to simply have a whole building connection
Mhm.
and interrupt the trunk line that comes into the school in the yard
And just use the circuits that are there.
and just use the circuits and power the whole building.
Right.
Wow. That is-
And so
So that will determine the capacity of the.
Well, he was able to determine the capacity before I even asked for the proposal. He contacted,
You can talk to Tim.
he talked to,
Green
Green Mountain Power.
No, GMP, okay.
And he was able to get the full loads, the peak loads
People.
for the entire building.
Right.
And so he was able to tell me that the generator that, Norm found,
Yeah,
Right.
long since gone.
Yeah. Oh.
But was appropriately sized.
oh,
For the high
good.
school.
So we know that now the next time, because that's
Correct.
not the first nor last time that Norm will see a generator.
Yep.
So we were able to divine quite a lot without even paying the bill.
Okay,
But we would definitely need for insurance purposes and
Yeah.
for doing this for the school and the village has to be protected. You need, engineered stamped drawings for this.
that,
And that's what that $5,000 is. Now, I noted that the reserve is not even started to be filled
yeah.
until March, so.
Well, no, it won't even because
After
that's,
a year.
that's a year. That's not even voted because the budget doesn't start until June.
And that reserve was discussed for the budget for fiscal year 25-26, which
Yeah.
begins July 1st, 2025. That budget is going to be to the public in the March annual meeting.
I see, okay. So,
So anything prior, the trustees would have to vote for it to come from somewhere within the current budget.
okay, well then, I'm not gonna push that. That's up to you guys when you want to begin this study. But the study will, well, it's more than a study. It would be construction documents for this connection,
We
whole
can,
building connection.
but I can get that to everybody and yeah, I just,
And that would also entail some sort of structure to houses.
No, I don't think so. It would be a, probably a box,
For something
A
that comes
hookup.
in and plugs in.
a hookup
That's
and
what we
a
talked about
main,
before.
and a main switch.
Yeah.
Because you disconnect from the grid manually and you connect to the emergency generator. Then you turn off the generator and you reconnect to the grid when it comes online again. Obviously, you cannot have the generator connected to the grid because when they're out servicing the line, they'll be electrocuted.
Right.
no,
So you have to have that fully disconnected.
Right.
It's either one or the other, not.
Yeah.
Never both.
How large would the generator be roughly? Do you have
60
any-
kV.
I know, but how much room would it take?
Oh, like from that wall to that wall and 8 feet, 10 feet high, whatever. Oh, huge
the
generator.
size of a, okay, that's the size of a tractor trailer.
Yeah,
Shipping container.
Yeah, that's
Bigger
what I'm
than-
thinking.
Yeah, shipping container.
shipping container. Yeah.
Okay.
It's a big diesel engine. It would be
Yeah.
diesel.
Hmm.
I wanted propane.
So we then also then have to pursue the memorandum of understanding
That's
with the
exactly right.
Prudential Committee and the school to see if they even could house something of that nature.
Oh, they wouldn't house it.
Or would,
It
Oh, they
would,
wouldn't.
it would sit,
Oh, that's right, it's mobile.
it's mobile.
Oh,
it's gonna
thanks.
sit
Okay.
in there.
So where would it be housed?
It would be on presumably
On village property.
village property, right? Whether it's at the water department site or here or wherever it is.
Right.
It'd have to be a secured property.
I'm thinking more if the bridges are damaged in a flood and it's on the other side of the creek.
You have to go.
It would come from the north.
Okay, all right, yeah, that makes sense. Okay,
So memorandum of understanding, obviously, I think first,
Mhm.
and I don't know how long that'll take, maybe until the new budget kicks in.
Yeah,
And
and
then,
that was approved to do at the last meeting.
so I have written a letter to the school requesting from the principal, a draft of their
Yes.
memorandum of understanding with other entities, because they've signed them with other entities already for the use of the school. I haven't received anything back from him, but that would be the basis of
Mhm.
proceeding.
A lot of decent hearings.
I have a question.
Yes, please.
The reports, like the land use reports, will they be available to the public on, online or at the
They
library?
already are. The two proposed documents are online, and there are two hard copies available upon request. If you would like to request one, I will drop one on your doorstep tomorrow,
Okay, thank you.
or actually tonight. I could walk it right over.
If it's online, I will look online and save you the
It is
trouble.
online.
Yep.
It's, to me, it's hard to read online. I will tell you, it's long.
Yeah.
And I'm the old fashioned person that needs to turn a page.
And that's on our village.
It is on the village website.
How does the, presentation to the public work? Would that be at the February meeting or?
Actually, I was gonna ask Matthew, if Matthew remembers being part of the commission, if you remember what was done in 2018, because it would be the same process.
Drawing a blank here, really. I'm not sure how that went down. That was probably when John was, was in charge, and
Yeah.
I'm not sure. Sorry.
Well, I'm wondering if a special meeting would be in order then.
That's what I was
Did
wondering.
Jim Sullivan do the presentation?
No, I doubt it.
Lori, anything? Muted.
I'm sorry, Matt. Tell me what you need. I'm on the phone with Norm, but
Oh,
please ask me your question.
Mary, go ahead.
we're looking to see if anybody remembers what the process was for the public meeting that was required in 2018 for the adoption of the previous village plan and zoning bylaw.
Okay, so you have to warn that. You have to warn the meeting, and it
We
has
know-
45
Okay.
days in advance. So I do know the process, yes.
Okay, but do you know whether it was done as a special meeting or was it part of the annual village meeting?
Oh, it was a special meeting.
Okay,
Yeah, it was a special meeting. It has to be a special meeting.
Chris has his hand up. Yes, Chris.
I heard what you were saying, but it's
Okay,
special meetings.
okay,
Like,
okay.
And how many meetings do you have to explain it to the public, Lori? One?
One.
Okay.
I think we had.
You probably would want to in the event that there were, well, first of all, the trustees need to read through and approve the documents themselves. Then the trustees present that to the public. If the public has questions that cannot be answered at that meeting, then you would appropriately continue that meeting until you could get the public's questions answered. And then the public would.
Is it possible, there is a possibility that someone brings up something that needs to be changed for that.
Absolutely. I mean, that's the whole
So it
process.
may not be one meeting, it may be a meeting revision and another meeting.
It may be. And then if this goes to BCRC.
Another warning and another meeting.
Right.
Because it'd be another warning.
If BCRC and or the state find things to do, then the whole cycle starts all over again. Then it goes back to the planning commission, back to the trustees, back to the public.
Yep.
So it is possible, well, no, never mind, I'm not even gonna say that, I do think a special meeting would be in order, but probably March or April. It's possible that we could get that done, don't you think? If we have the draft, the commission presents the drafts in middle of January to trustees, trustees could look at it. It could be a major component of the February trustee meeting, at which time the trustees could approve that for a special public meeting.
Or we could have a special meeting with the trustees whenever they wish, and the planning commission would lead them through the documents.
That might even be a better one. Yeah.
And Mary, you can have the special meeting, like, say 6:30 on the same night as a trustees meeting. Like if you wanted to combine it. But it
That's
can't
an
be,
idea.
it can't be at the annual meeting, but it could be
Okay,
regular trustees meeting, as long as the agenda showed that it was a special meeting, say 6:30, and then the regular trustees meeting at 7 or whatever, just an
Okay. Okay, but it typically, a special meeting needs to be warned, I wanna say 72 hours, I forget exactly, but you're saying it needs, it needs to go 45 days in advance?
Well, for your final decision,
fine.
like for your final, like we are going to adopt this plan or whatever, you have to have a hearing, a special meeting, a public hearing is what I want to say, first, and that has to be warned, but you can have that. We've had public hearings a lot of times prior to our regular trustees meeting or
Okay.
in the middle of it or after it or whatever time you think is appropriate. So,
Okay, thank you for that.
Mm.
So planning commission can sort that out on
Yeah.
Monday.
Well, one last thought, it seems to me that for document the size of what we're talking about, that it might be wise for the planning commission to have meetings where it explains parts of it to the public. I don't know. That would, since there's no decision involved, it's just explicating what's in the document.
Well, every meeting is open.
You're warned.
I mean, every meeting
You
is
just wouldn't
warranted.
have a special meeting warned for the purpose of approval.
Well, but that could be done at the same time that the planning commission is presenting these to the trustees. That's a public meeting and the public could be there to attend that.
Yeah, well,
And then it can be followed up with the warned public meeting after the trustees adopt. It's not enacted, but it's adopted, I think is the,
well,
Is the
I just think, it's, there needs to be, more education of the public, that's all I'm saying. And it doesn't have, it could be done by the planning commission itself, by taking bits of it, or what are the salient parts and explaining them sequentially over months, I suppose. I don't know if that would happen, if anybody would come, but
That's the problem.
that's the problem. But one massive meeting there's a lot of detail. And maybe that detail is gonna be lost on most people. But, I don't. That's just my feeling about it,
We've tried to make the land use regulations as approachable,
Mhm.
comprehensible as possible. We've given introductory text, leading them through the document organization. We give an example of a permitting process. And then we go through in a much more logical sequence than the current document, which is much smaller, but is confusing and out
Yeah.
of order and so
I've
It's
read your
not-
prose, I know what you do, so.
It's-
You're good at that.
it's, while it's a large document and it's full of detail, it's also pretty manageable to understand, I think. In terms of what the purpose of the chapter is, how
Lots
every,
of definition laid out,
everything
lots
is.
of charts laid out.
So, and as much as possible, we do things in tabular form or in charts.
Yeah.
The best part of our current zoning regulations is the historic district restrictions. And those have essentially been unchanged. Those are the parts that people typically care about, you know, and the historic district boundaries have only changed by one house. I think we can get through it in a meeting. I think so. I don't think it's that impossible. And if you look at it online and if you disagree with me, then maybe we did need to do something else. But I'm perfectly willing to lead you through those documents if you wish, or not.
But I would strongly encourage, hard as it is, for all of us, including anyone in the listening public, to at least scan through and look at them.
There were things which were omitted, which statute required, which are now filling out the what used to be called bylaws. And that had to do with subdivisions and plan unit development. And essentially, our current bylaws had a couple of sentences for things which are very complex. And if we do have a developer show up one day with grand plans, we want control and we want the rules to be explicit and written out. And so there's a lot of text about those two things, which is why the text grew. So, but I think you'll find it approachable. I hope so anyway.
I had a question. Several meetings ago, you discussed with us a new state regulation, which had to do with the planned unit development and how it threatened to override everything that we have on, not everything, but a lot of what we had on the books. And the whole notion was that we needed more dense housing. Could you update us on how that, did that pass and is it now state law?
It is state law. It was called Act 47. And it is now part of the statute, which is Chapter 117 and Title 24. So it's been incorporated. The thing that there's many parts to the statutes and many parts to the follow-on statute 181. But the issue that I brought up previously was that the state looked across the entire state and said, as a determinant for where density should be, high density should be, because they don't want sprawl. They want to preserve the rural landscape as much as possible. They want growth to be in village centers, in town centers. And so in doing so, they had to determine how to define those without going through 270 independent towns and determining where their boundaries should be. So they said, well, clearly, if there's water and sewer then that must be the area with the greatest density. Ignoring the fact that in certain cases, that, like ours, the whole village virtually is with water and sewer. Now, there's some outlying parcels in the east and the west, but we had an organized breakdown of density being highest in the village center and growing out from it. Because of water and sewer, the high density reaches the boundaries of water and sewer. And that's what I objected to, that
Right.
our
I remember
organization.
You discussed that.
And so that has passed, and we're an anomaly, and we suffer that restriction, that high density, that is 5 dwelling units per acre. And accessory dwelling units per each dweller are permitted throughout our village, pretty much throughout our village. So where we had area requirements such that they were lessening as you went out, density of housing was lessening, we can't do that anymore. And so the new regulations that you will be seeing, these land use regulations, have that as a commentary in there. It explains to the village why the character of the village may change over time because of these new regulations and what's coming or what's potential to them. And then we go on and incorporate all those requirements. I mean, we don't have a choice.
Yeah, it sounds.
It's mandated.
Yeah, right, okay.
So that, as is mentioned in here, that was the bump that threw us for a loop for several months, first with many letters to legislators, and then subsequently to having to figure out how to incorporate these requirements into the new text.
Okay, thank you.
Is this plan on this website?
Yes.
Where?
It was on the homepage.
Is this something?
This is your documents page. Click on Village North Bennington, see if they're back to the beginning.
Okay, while they're looking for that, we can continue. Is there anything else, Kim, that needs to be mentioned? Is there any other questions from the trustees or the public?
Well, I'm gonna get back to the engineering firm and tell them
Yes,
that we're on hold
we're
until,
on hold for the moment. Yes, I'm so sorry. that just went right in and out of my brain. To get that, but I'll get that to everybody tomorrow.
And in the meantime, we can work on the memorandum of understanding.
And in the meanwhile, everybody can start reading the documents. Or continue, as the case may be. Okay, so under old business, if we're ready for that now. What I had listed here was to review what we were doing for the annual meeting. And where we are with all the reports.
It's in your downloads.
I believe Lori can.
So the annual meeting is Tuesday, March 18th at 7:30. It will be held at the village school. I filled out a building use form.
Yeah.
And I was very clear that I didn't want it to be disastrous as it was in the prior year. I believe that our communication is good and that the room will be set up, and we will give a stipend to the custodian as we've done in the past for setup and tear down and that sort of thing.
Good.
I have Mary, on the agenda, you wanted to know what the status was of the required report.
Yes, are you missing anything that you can use our help gather?
Well, I believe that I've spoken to, I know the water department has a meeting tomorrow night.
Yeah.
And they're going to just approve and finalize what they need to give me. I've spoken
Okay.
with Zach regarding that. I've spoken to the fire department and the Vermont Arts Exchange, and I have reached out to the tree committee. I have not heard back from them. I received a couple more today, one from Sage City Symphony, and one from Park McCullough House. So there are a couple still out there. I haven't heard back from Lake Perrin. But I did ask that everything be in my hands by Friday in PDF format
Okay,
to my email.
okay. There's a couple in there that I can help work with, that
Perfect.
received funds. So I know you sent, email also for the Park McCullough House, and I will follow up. I tried to do some more follow-up on that.
We're good with that. I'm good with
Oh,
that.
you have
I've
it?
Well, there were some people that we recently met who are no longer on the board. So
Oh.
I did find someone who is, and they gave me some contact info. We're good with Park McCullough House now.
Oh,
And
good.
Sage City Symphony, we're also good with. So, and I'm working with Ed and the fire department.
Okay, so we're
I
good then.
mentioned water, and Matthew Perry never lets me down. So I know I'll
Yeah.
see something from him.
Okay, okay. And is the cover going to be done by Matthew again and his group?
I did ask him that and I have not heard back from him, but I would
Okay.
believe that he
Okay.
kind of, he tends to be in touch with Mike at Express Copy one-on-one, and they figure out time,
Oh, okay.
dates to meet and that sort of
Okay.
thing. So, yeah, we're in better shape than we were yesterday. So we'll see what tomorrow brings.
Okay.
What was the, date again?
It's Tuesday,
Tuesday.
March 18th
18th. Okay, thank you.
at 7:30.
Right.
Lori, are we going to just have, books again available as requested? We're not, did we change that last year and we don't try to put a report in everyone's mailbox?
So we changed it a couple of years ago, but what
Yeah.
what I've done is asked, so I do leave them, I leave large amounts in certain places. And where people tend to go, like Jenny Rosicki loves to have a lot of them there, and
Okay,
I'm able to leave them in certain places where people can find them, but I also let them know that if they can't get out and they would like a book, they just can email me, and that happens quite a bit. And then I have a group of kids who will deliver those. So that works out really well. So that everyone can have access to a book, but a hard copy if they'd like, but a lot of people are looking at it online now.
yeah,
It's,
and we'll get that on the website as soon as it's.
Yep. Mike sends me a
PDF.
PDF and we'll put that on the
Perfect.
website. We've done.
Okay. Does anybody else have any questions or concerns or comments about annual meeting?
We have a regular meeting too.
Regular meeting
In
is,
March.
it will be in March, but it's before that.
It'll be March.
Yeah, yeah. One other thing that came up after the agenda went out under old business, I did send this to all of you, I think to most of you at least. But next Thursday, January 16th at 10 o'clock here, there is a webinar for the MERP, the Energy Resilience Program, and it affects regulation for historic buildings. So work on the depot definitely falls under that. So I'll set up a monitor, and I'm hoping any of you who are able to can come and view that. Hopefully Norm can be here as well. I sent that to Bill Christian, and I will call him to make sure he can get here. That's going to be really important that we know what we need and what we will be required to do for a historic building. We have not only the heating system, but we have a bathroom update.
That's
That's part of that
January 16th.
at 10 a.m. Yes, I
10
did
a.m.
send that, and if you would like, since you can have that piece of paper,
Okay,
and I'll reprint that for me. But I'll set up a big monitor here. People can also view it on their own. But that would be useful. Okay, that's all I had under old business unless anybody else had
Oh,
anything.
can I just say one more thing? The warning. Now, I sent the warning out to all of you and I only had, one reply. And that reply was positive that everything looked okay. Ray is the trustee that is up for a 3-year, reelection. And, I don't know if Ray is running, but I have not heard otherwise. And we only had one additional request that was different, and that would be for the Park McCullough House for the increase in funding.
Lori, what would the process be if a member of the public came forward between now or even at the annual meeting? Is the process that if someone shows up at the annual meeting and someone nominates them, it's considered? Or do we have-
Absolutely, yes.
That's the process, okay.
Yeah, so we've had that sort of thing happen in the past. We had almost a full turnover one year. Many people came and they were elected. And the trustees that were up for reelection were wanting to be reelected. And other people really wanted to sit on the board and brought all of their friends. So this is something that we don't know, and that's the way our charter states that we run this meeting. So yes, we don't know, Mary.
Okay.
In that case, if someone came, we would have to have a vote, and it would be a paper vote and a paper and counted vote. So.
But for the listening public, should anybody be contemplating, that's the process that they need to know. Please do. Okay. New business. I sent, it's not all that, well, you can read it. The state back in July passed new ethics standards that apply to all municipalities. The details of how that was to be done recently came out. So by the end of this month, we have to appoint, the trustees have to appoint, I believe the term was ethics coordinator, but yet I do not know specifically what the ethics coordinator is charged with doing, and have that. Probably it would be much like the current ethics policy that the village has, where if someone makes a complaint, it is handled by the clerk. In this case, Lori, unless the complaint was against a person that is the coordinator, and then there's a process in our current policy that describes that. I've yet to get an answer to my questions about whether we can still retain our current ethics policy as long as it complies with the expanded definition of who needs to be trained in ethics. But just be aware that we have things that will need to be done by January 30th. 2 things: post the state requirement, which that is easy to do. And then secondly, to appoint an ethics coordinator. I do not want to volunteer, Lori, until we see exactly what the ethics coordinator is supposed to do. But I'm assuming that most people will be appointing their clerks. I'm just guessing, but I do not have my questions answered. So stay tuned on that. Lori did send everybody the VLCT newsletter. If you looked at that and you can drill down into the ethics topic that they had, there are materials there. There is one site says 55 minutes, the other one says 45 minutes. Ethics training, that long list of people, all of those positions are required to be trained on that. Whether it's done as a group or each individual has to go and do that webinar on their own. Still trying to get an answer to that. And then what happens with those certifications, I'm still trying to figure out whether that again is the clerk or this coordinator that needs to maintain them. In the past, we have followed the village's ethics policy, and annually trustees have presented a certification to Lori. And Lori's been keeping them, but now this is expanded to virtually anybody that is appointed, elected, or serves on any sort of a committee or board. It affects the fire chief and the two appointees that are the two assistants that we have. So I do not have any more information than that, but I would encourage you, if you do have the time and inclination, drill into that VLCT information, because maybe I've missed something in that. Anything else? Any other business? Hearing none. 8:16. If there's no other business, we have no executive session. Motion to adjourn.
Make that motion.
With a smile on his face. All in favor?
I.
I see a thumbs up from Matthew, so that's